Welcome back to another episode of the Know Your Power podcast. I'm your host, Juliarene.
And Kendall Graboff.
And today, guys, we have a special guest in the house, Ian Oliver. But before we get to that, we're actually going to announce our first giveaway winner. If you guys don't hear the little ads that we have going on at the beginning and the end, also Ian is the one that does those. But if you just leave a review, a starred review, write a little something nice or not nice, either way, just giving us some feedback, we pick monthly winners. And this month, Natalie, and I will read her review, is the winner of a $100 Young LA gift card. So Natalie says, above and beyond, absolutely love this podcast. Julia and Kendall will become your best friends that you always wanted. Very informative podcast. You can also learn so much from and get your questions answered. What is this saying? Words. The Monday Mindsets always help me to kick off my week in a great way. Looking forward to every new episode and keep listening to the older ones over and over again. Thank you so much for all you do and keep up the great work. Lots of love, Natalie.
That was so sweet.
I
Thank
think
you, Natalie.
It's Natalia.
Natalia.
Oh my God, I'm sorry, Natalia.
Wow, how dare you?
I know, right? And it's funny, when I typed it, I thought the same thing. I was like, Natalie. Wait, that's wrong. But Natalie, email us at knowyourpowerpodcast@gmail.com because you are the winner of a $100 Young LA gift card.
You said Natalie again. Natalia.
Guys, it's been a day.
That's okay.
And it's only like 11:30.
I think it's been a day for all three of us.
Yeah.
A week.
It's
For those
been
of
a
you
week.
who don't live in Texas, we've had a winter storm again.
Which was basically just a tiny, tiny layer of ice on the road and the whole state shut down.
I mean, we're just not equipped for it. So
No,
like
we're not.
everything starts breaking, everyone loses power. Like it's just rough.
Oh my God.
Zach.
His notifications on his computer go. So we're just going to go with today. Anyways, guys, we have Ian Oliver here.
What's up?
Ian is a videographer who's local to Austin, Texas. We really couldn't find anything else on him when we were researching him because he's basically a ghost.
We have a form in front of us that we usually do like some research on guests and like line up questions just to keep the conversation flowing. And it currently says possible questions and it's
0.
just blank.
There's a blank bullet point. So,
but I think that opens up
This is
more
how
questions.
sad this is because I've been working with you for like almost 4 years and I've known you for like 2 and there's no questions.
I mean,
That's a sad
we
case
got
in
a
the
lot of
first.
questions.
Okay.
We have our mental questions. We just had no prepared questions.
Yeah, like for other guests that we like don't know, it's like we really have
True,
not like
yeah.
we're like, what's your name first of all? But we know all that. If you guys don't know, Ian has been working with me for over 3 years now.
It's been a minute.
It's been a minute. He is the guy that's behind every single piece of content that I put out on social media. He's the podcast editor. He's my YouTube videographer. He is the reason you guys are listening to us right now. So welcome to the show, Ian.
Thank you.
Yes.
It's a privilege.
We're excited to get you in front of the mic instead of
behind the computer.
Behind the computer and behind the camera.
I'm just curious, what do you like better? Do you like staying behind camera or do you like kind of coming out once in a while?
I like both. Yeah, I think I prefer being behind the camera because it just feels awkward sometimes being in front of it because it's not a natural instinct like it is for you now since you've been doing it for so long. But I do like showing my face every once in a while and getting out there on my social media and being like, this is who's shooting this. Here's my brand.
Yeah. And that's why we couldn't find anything.
Yeah.
I was like, it's just, that's the thing about when you're a photographer or a videographer is that one thing that I notice is when I go to their pages, I want to see who they are, like who their face is. And I can never find that. It's just like, even some of them don't even have a profile photo. Luckily, like you do. And I actually know what your face looks like, but they get so used to seeing themselves behind the camera. And they're just like, when they're on camera, they're like, freeze.
Yeah, you're good on camera though.
Yeah,
I was on Ian's podcast. If you want to plug it, you're more than welcome.
That was fun.
And you're a great conversationalist. And I
you.
feel like you should be in front of the camera more.
I'm also a little salty. I wasn't invited to that.
know.
I'm sitting.
Where
over
was
here
she?
in my salt? No, I
don't know.
I was here. I was there. I was sitting at home just waiting for a text.
We'll do it. We'll do another one. We'll run it back.
That was funny. Well, sorry.
Mostly what I want to get into, since we have no prepared questions, is just your start. I mean, I know that you've been in this industry a long time, but I don't really know when it started, how it started. I know that you were working corporate jobs on top of doing videography for a while. When did you make that transition? Kind of take us through the whole timeline.
You want to go deep roots?
Yes.
Deep roots.
So, I mean, I've been shooting film, I guess, since home movies were a thing. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to make this my career. It was just a fun thing that we all did back, this is really dating myself because I'm old. But following that, I went into, waiting tables, the usual. I went to school for business, dropped out 2 years later because I just don't like books. And then following that, I got into kind of a photojournalist thing. I was watching TV one day. I was sitting in my mom's upstairs living room and was playing video games. And I'm like, wow, I'm 26 and I haven't done anything with my life. Like I dropped out of school, still waiting tables. What am I going to do? And I saw this commercial for like social broadcasting. It was at the time, like YouTube just started. It was 2015 or 2013 around there. And I'm like, I'll go to school for that. And it initially was to be on the radio. Like I wanted to talk on the radio. And then I got there and it was a dual thing. It was like, you can do radio and you can do edit and see which one you like. So I ended up enjoying the filming process and editing. And then from there, I got to work for the news as a photojournalist for 2 years and kind of hated it because the money was bad and it was just chasing around reporters. And I'm like, this isn't it. So I just went and started freelancing on my phone doing weddings.
On your phone?
Yeah. So
what was your first one on your phone?
Yeah. So I'll show you.
You have a video,
yeah,
dude.
So it was one of my friends. That was like my first real client outside of like broadcasting. And I shot it on my phone. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with like the DJI Osmo, but it was the first like action cam that could do like a 360 and it was this big circle ball. I'm like, oh, I'm shooting the wedding on this. They paid me like $50. I'm like, my first paid client. It came out terrible, but
they probably thought it was good.
Yeah, at the time. I mean, this is still again like 2016. And then from there, I wasn't really making great money doing it. And in Michigan, there really isn't any great jobs out there. So I got into law enforcement. So I went to the academy. I'm like, oh, I can make $20.
Such a 180.
Yeah. I'm like, I can make $20 an hour. As a photojournalist, I was making 10. Like I make $20 an hour. That's a lot of money in Michigan because it's kind of like the state's not very, there's things there, but it doesn't thrive like it does here.
Did you fully switch to law enforcement or you're still doing both?
So I was still doing both, but more law enforcement. So I got in, went to the academy and then became a corrections officer, worked in a prison for 2 years. And in said prison, that's when I was like shooting weddings still. I moved from my phone to my first, like, I think it was like Canon TI Rebel.
That's what like everyone on Tumblr had.
Yeah. And then from the TI Rebel, I was shooting fitness stuff because again, like when I joined corrections, that's when I started getting into fitness and I actually got pretty lean and I was like filming myself and I was like, I'm going to be a freaking fitness influencer. Watch me. And that's kind of when I fell in love with like shooting fitness. And my friend goes, here, you want this A6000? So that was my real first like camera Sony.
Wow.
And hated the prison. I feel like this is long-winded, but this is deeper.
No, you're good.
I hated the prison and started getting really sick. I started having stomach issues and that's where I found out I had like a gluten allergy, kind of like Kendall, and depression was crazy. I was caged in with inmates for, 8 hours a day, sometimes 16, because they did a thing called mandatory overtime. So like if you didn't...
Mandatory overtime. Okay.
Yeah. So in law enforcement, it's weird. Like you're by law, like if no one shows up for work and you're on the list of like who's next, by law, you're like stuck there for another 8 hours. Like you can't leave because if they don't have anybody who's going to watch these inmates, right?
That's true.
I started getting really sick and I met a girl here in Texas that I'm now married to, but her and I started talking back and forth and she's like, you move here. And it's like, no, you move here. Like, I'm not moving to Texas.
You guys were like long distance
Yeah,
to
we did that
start?
for 8 months.
On the line.
Yeah.
Oh, cute.
We did that for 8 months. So I was flying here and she was flying there. It got really taxing after 8 months. I'm like, you move here. And she's like, I'm not moving to the cold. Like, you got me up.
I would never have moved to
And she's like, well, why don't you move to Texas? And I was like, okay, I guess. Like, is there anything cool there? And that's, I don't know if you guys are familiar with like Lobo Films. He's a fitness
familiar.
goat, like icon. He kind of just created this whole like pan whip thing, like all this stuff. And he lived in Texas. He lived in Houston. I'm like, I'm moving to Texas. Let's do this. And that's kind of, the rest is kind of history. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
So when you moved, is that when you made the jump into like, I'm going to full-time be a creator? Or did you still find like a hourly job here?
Kind of with the great questions. So when I first moved here, I took out a 401k. It was like 15,000. I'm like, yes, I'm going to do this full time. I'm going for it. And burnt through that. I followed a YouTuber. So this was my first YouTuber. It was How to Pimp Corporate America. He wrote a book. It went nationwide, but then he wanted to make a YouTube series about it. And he wanted to do these dinners where he went from different city to different city and like talk to the top entrepreneurs. But women just didn't want to be involved with the word pimp because it has this
Makes
like
sense.
negative connotation, right? And so that kind of failed. So we're in LA and we're sitting there and I'm burning through my money because at the time it was like $1,000 retainer and I thought that was a lot of money. And I was burning through my own 401k because I had to pay rent still. I had to like pay stuff. My wife was like kind of supporting me. And we're in LA and he goes, I'm out of money. I'm like, what do you mean you're out of money? He's like, yeah, I don't know how we're getting home.
Oh, shit.
And so we were stuck in LA and I had to find a way to get home, and he was asking money from his dad. So we get back and we just kind of stopped talking, and I burnt through my 401k and I was like, I got to go back to work. So I went to work at GNC. So like corrections officer, like GNC, making another $12, $13 an hour or whatever GNC is. And interesting enough, with no degree, I go to the BMC. I'm like, I just desperate. I need a $20 an hour job at least. And they hired me on, like, actually, we need somebody. So they taught me how to do this collection stuff. It's like a collections agency. So I had to call people and be like, you owe us money, bitch.
Which I feel like is another mentally taxing job to do that all day.
So many different things, bro.
I know. So that was super taxing. And I was just so scared to fail again. Cause I mean, this is the second time, like, this camera stuff didn't work. Like the first time with photojournalists, and then after the prison, like I failed again. And I go, well, I'm going to do something different. Let me just save up like $7,000, $8,000 to pay at least 3 months rent. I'm gonna go for it one more time. And if it doesn't work, then it just doesn't work, and I'm going to give up on it. And oddly enough, I quit my job, told my boss to go F off, cause I hated that job too. Super depressed, calling people every day. And I mean, here we are.
Most people
full time for 2 years and doing well.
Wow.
Most people give up after that first time, like, not to make you keep talking, sorry, but that's the point of this. What kept you like to still push on after failing one time and then the second time? Like, what made you go for that third attempt?
I guess just love for it. I just thoroughly enjoy. It's funny because I'm super introverted, kind of like Julia and you, but I really love meeting new people and shooting their stories and being able to create that, even though I don't want to hang out with those people 24/7 sometimes.
I don't necessarily want to talk to you.
I don't want to just hang out with you all day, but I love shooting you.
I feel like it creates like an easy way to meet people. Like it breaks the ice for you. You don't have to like make small talk. You're like, okay, hi, nice to meet you. Let's shoot. Or like, what do you want to shoot?
Yeah. And you learn their story a lot faster, and you don't really have to ask questions.
Exactly. And then on the tail end of that, also, I'm just not a person that gives up. So my work ethic is next to none. Sometimes I refuse to be outworked, and I refuse to fail. And in that, I think I found grace in failure, because without failure, there's no like success. So you can't succeed if you don't experience some sort of failure, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Or really feel grateful for that success.
It's very true. Like, one of the things that I always say is, like, I think that we kind of keep the past and the things that quote unquote happen to us like right on our shoulder. I think they're always going to be kind of there, because it brings you back down to reality. Like, hey, you have to see the duality between what it feels like to feel like a failure and what it feels like to feel like you succeeded, in order to really feel gratitude for what it is. Like, I wouldn't feel grateful for where I am now if I didn't suck back then, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Jeez.
And I also think that's what makes people, I think that's why it's like a 5%, 1% success rate, right? And what we do, because a lot of people will hit a wall and say, damn, that hurt, I'm not doing that again. Me, I'm like, I'm going to run through this bitch ass wall. Like, this is happening. And
I'm going to make this wall my bitch.
Yeah, exactly. And, I'm going to decorate this wall. Yeah. It's going to look pretty at the end of the day.
With my blood. Oh my God. Bashing my head into it.
But we're going to get through it. So, just that kind of sums up where I've come from in the smallest form of like explanation. But yeah.
Yeah. And I think that that's necessary for whatever it is that you do. Like, it doesn't have to be videography or starting a business or like getting a pro card or, I don't know, getting that promotion or whatever, but that's necessary in order to get somewhere new. To make change, you have to change. Yep. And a lot of people do give up after that first time or even that second time, because it does hurt. And one thing that I realized recently was that we really like to use our past to justify why we can't do something in the 100%. Present. Like you could have definitely sat there and be like, okay, in the past I failed at this twice. Who am I to think that I won't fail at this again in the present? And that is the decision point, whether you go forward and say, you know what, I'm gonna fucking try again, or whether you're not. What I also noticed is during that time, you kind of gave yourself no other option. And sometimes that's really what you need to do to kick your ass and to go do something else. You're like, I have to have a no option mentality in order to go after this thing. Because if you have something to fall back on, that's way easier.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like a lot of people, they they fail and they just see it as an excuse to just bail. And for me, I think anything is possible with enough pressure and enough consistency over time, whether that takes you 2 months, 6 months, or 10 years. I think if you really love it and you have a why, and that why is still relevant, like if you look at yourself and you go, why am I doing this? And it doesn't make sense anymore, then I guess, right?
It's true.
But if you say, I'm doing this because I love it, I want to make money, I think I can be good at it, then why the fuck would you ever stop doing it? You know what I mean? It's going to take time. Everything does. Yeah. And there's people that have done it, started with me, that are far more successful than I, but that doesn't make me any less good or any less successful than them. I'm just not on the same path they are. Their trajectory was just different. The universe provided differently than they did.
Exactly.
And we all view success differently too. Yeah. Like I'm sure they could look at some of the projects and things that you do and they're like, damn, I wish I could do that. Mm-hmm. Like I feel like it's always grass is greener on the other side. So you just got to stick on your own.
100%. I even wrote I think it was last Monday or maybe this Monday, I wrote this Monday doesn't exist yet. Last Monday, I wrote a story saying like somebody's imperfect. For me, like what I find imperfect that I'm not showcasing is somebody's perfect. And you can't be seen if you don't show yourself, right? So like you guys can't find anything about me because I don't post enough about me, right? And that just goes to show me that I need to go post more about myself. But yes, somebody's like, sometimes I don't post anything or I won't share my work because I don't think it's perfect enough. But for somebody else looking in, maybe that actual piece of content is
sorry, sir. You're being a hypocrite right now. Ian is like the most talented person ever and posts like once a year.
But you know what's annoying, Kendall, is we do this too. And it's so hard for me because I'm sitting here and I'm like, Ian, you're a fucking idiot. But I'm like, wait, I do the same thing.
Like you're speaking to me, but also like we really do all do it. And I don't show my personality like nearly enough online.
I want y'all to take the time to go to my YouTube channel and go to any of my show day videos and look at the movie that Ian creates. Every time that Ian shoots, they're like, this was the most incredible video ever. Like I was so moved. There's a story. I'm like, yeah, it's because I didn't do it.
Yeah. There's a lot of times where I'm like, it's taking me forever. I'm sorry. Because I'm just constantly
he's a perfectionist.
Ian's very hard on himself.
But I mean, y'all probably do that too, right? You probably look in the mirror and you're like, I'm just not attractive enough today, or I'm not posting this picture that I did. Yeah. But to somebody else looking in, they're probably like, Jesus, like Julia and Kendall are beautiful. You know, why aren't they posting?
Yeah. Why didn't they post today? And I was sitting here like, fuck, I wasn't perfect. Yeah. That's why I didn't post.
And I think that's a lot of the YouTube stuff that you and I do. I think the reason why people resonate so well with you is because I keep the imperfections in there and that's authentic. Yeah. I think being beautiful and perfect every day doesn't resonate with other people like it does being imperfect.
Yeah. Like when Ian and I are filming, even for like the podcast or like YouTube, there's literally no times where I'm like, cut that out. I just trust that he's going to keep in what needs to be put in. And sometimes we even like have it way too long because there's so much that we're sharing. And I think that's the beauty of sharing your journey, is that if you're sharing it as something that's like perfect, like for one, perfect is very unrelatable. Yeah, so we found.
Yeah, I mean, your own mother told me to start taking out your burps, and I was like, no, it's not happening.
My mom, every time I burp on camera, my mom's like, Ian, because my parents love Ian so much. Yeah. They ask about him all the time. But she's like, take him out. And I'm like, no, if I did, that would be just unauthentic to me. And if someone doesn't like it, I've literally commented back and said, then leave, because this is who I am.
Keep scrolling.
I was listening to a podcast yesterday talking about like the influencer kind of takeover among like A-list celebrities. And the biggest comparison they give was like the Kardashians are trying to be on TikTok now and trying to be relatable, but they're just not. They built themselves on this hierarchy of like, we are perfect, we are rich, we are like business owners, and just like the most unattainable. And that's why they're not in the spotlight anymore. They're kind of drifting out.
Did we watch the same thing?
I might have.
Where'd you watch it?
I'd forget. It's like a Barstool Sport podcast. Yeah, it was like dumb, but the underlying like tone was there, and it's that TikTokers are blowing up because they're showing every little like imperfection aspect of their life, and they're just being themselves. And like girls are going on without makeup instead of having a full production team.
Yeah, I love that, because the Kardashians was never really anything. I mean, that's like a 1% of a one, like nominally, right? So I love that people that are blowing up aren't this sort of like billionaire, perfectionist.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people can resonate with that. I love
It
that.
makes you realize like, oh, I can do that too. Because really anyone
Yeah.
could be in any of our shoes. Like I know it takes like obviously skill to be a content creator in the way you are.
I think skill is developed over time
Yeah.
with consistency. Like
Yeah.
you could be the most untalented person in the world, but give me 5 years and I'm going to be talented if I stay consistent and work hard.
Yep. That's
Kinda
very true.
Going into that, were you taught just basics at that like
The broadcasting school, media
Yeah.
school, I guess you could call it. Yeah. So I was taught, basic under, but I remember editing. This was something they didn't teach us. I remember editing before YouTube was like, my learning school, my school of art. I was cutting on the beats in my edits. And that's when I kind of fell in love with editing because my professor, I guess you could call him, was like, who showed you this? And I'm like, who showed me what? And he goes, you're editing like on the beats. This is timed up so well. And I was like, I don't know, it just felt right.
Do you think that like your musical background, because
Yeah.
that
I
was
was
not
just
to
gonna
like
say, I
tie
think
in.
so.
Fuck.
I
Ian
think
was
so.
in a band for
Yeah.
how many years?
10.
Okay.
Okay, so let's just break this down real quick. So Ian was a corrections officer at a prison. Ian,
Well, in a band before then,
in a
yeah.
band, a screamo band. He
A
also
screamo
worked at
band.
like a tech little thing where he learned
Yeah.
to. Oh my god, what?
Yeah.
But I think your musical background probably taught you that without you even realizing, like
Yeah.
editing on the 4.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, I come from music, I guess. That was my first love. And I always consider myself not really an artsy creative person, but I guess now looking back, like music is still art.
Yeah.
It's whatever they call like the right side of the brain. Versus
Yeah.
the
I was
left.
always worried because I watched a YouTube video and they were saying if you're more of a more of a logic thinker, that being like in this creative space is not gonna, like, this is 6 years ago. You're not gonna, blow up as a content creator. Like you just can't, because you're more of a logical thinker than an artsy creative thinker. And I was kind of put back by that. But then over the years of just practicing this, and then realizing like sometimes creativity just comes in the form of working, like experiences and practice and trial and error. And
You can't be taught how to be creative.
right. And I think total opposite. I think a logic side and a creative side mixed are more beneficial than just one side or the other, because
Agreed.
now I'm more business savvy than some of my artsy people. And even though they can come up with concepts better than I, like, they're still struggling to make money.
Exactly.
You need a little bit of both in order to thrive when you're a creative, because if you just put out a bunch of stuff and
Yeah.
you're really like, ooh, I'm artsy fartsy, and then it's like, wait, like, how do I monetize this?
Right,
I think
exactly.
that I'm a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I think all 3 of us have some.
Yeah, I think that's
I agree.
I think that's great to have. I mean, because you guys come from like selling fitness stuff, like the business side first before the influence or the content side of things, and I think that helps a lot with y'all, like knowing how to monetize, checking your, knowing the algorithm, like really doing research, understanding how it moves, how it's working, what time to post, like. As trivial as all those things sound, those are what you guys capitalized on, and that's what's helped your growth tremendously.
Yeah, and I don't even realize that that's something that I just already
You just do.
I do now,
Yeah.
because I spent a lot of time researching every single platform, how to make it work for me, and now it's just like, oh yeah, I'm not going to post right now because everyone's
Right.
getting off work right now and they're in traffic. No one's going to be on their phone. Like, that's how I think, and
Right.
I don't realize that it took a lot of time to get there.
Yeah, it's like a schedule, like permanent in your brain.
There's a method behind the madness, and people can look at content creators and videographers and photographers and really just take advantage of the creative process, because let's be honest, we live in a society where creatives are kind of looked down on. If you're not like a business like CEO person that does and goes in
Yeah.
suits, then you're not smart.
Exactly.
And it doesn't take effort.
I mean, one thing that I love the most about working for myself is I show up in sweatpants like 90% of the time.
I've been wearing this all morning.
Do you see how
I've
I'm
been-
dressed right now?
We're dressed all like
I'm
hobos.
dressed like a teenage
I think
boy.
I'm dressed the most here. I'm just like,
Yeah, he's fancy.
I'm gonna be on a podcast.
No,
guys.
it's
Yeah, podcast.
definitely
I'm gonna
great.
wear my nice sweater.
Wear my nice shirt.
Ian's literally always in sweaters, and I'm like, I'm just a sweater, so I'm like, how are you doing that,
I know.
Mr.
Texas
Michigan?
heat, and I'm in a sweatshirt.
No, yeah, I like sweatshirts the best, I would say.
I just love being comfortable. It's weird.
I hate it.
Really?
Yeah, I really-
See,
I hate
feel
wearing
like
long
I can't
sleeves.
be creative if I'm like uncomfortable in what I'm wearing. Like,
I
I
agree.
can't
I
take
agree with
photos in like heels. That's not
No.
gonna happen. Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, if I'm behind the camera, then
I'm curious, just to go back like through your journey. So in the stage where you kind of start like doing things on your own, you saved up the money, you kind
Yeah.
of take that third leap. How do you start getting clients? Like this could either, I guess, be just your experience or taken as like tips for people getting into the creative space.
I mean, I think I should make a YouTube video about this because I've been really, I mean, the first year that I started, I went from 0 to like 6 figures, full time, like actually invested into myself.
Teach me your ways.
But
Please.
one of the things I think people take for granted is free work.
Yeah.
They just do. They see it as like this negative thing. And for me, I met Julia through Austin's like meetups, right?
Yeah.
They did these
Yeah.
awesome meetups and I did all those for free. My first year, I did 100 free videos.
Yeah.
I saw one of the free videos you did for Julia,
Yeah.
and that's how I found you. So I think that just like
Yeah.
proves that it reaches more than you think.
And look just like where that went. It
Yeah,
went from
exactly.
you seeing, like us meeting in that group, you doing a free video, to you being
Yep.
my most expensive retainer
Full time. baby.
full time. Like
Yeah.
that's just unbelievable.
Yep. And I met Zach through that too.
Yeah.
Actually met these two, I think on their first time they ever kissed, like the outside of that gym, you guys went out and kissed. for the
Ian
first
was
time.
there.
Yeah. So
Ian was there.
I was
Full
like,
circle.
yeah. So I mean, I had Zach on retainer at one point, Julia on retainer. I shot a couple people's from that group. So I shot their weddings. Wow. Interesting enough, like Jazz, I shot her wedding. I shot, God, what's her name? I feel bad, but I shot her wedding too.
That's okay.
And then, but yeah, so people take for granted free work because there's no like exchange, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people, especially now in our society, like all the dopamine hits, they need an exchange for every action they make. But for me, I got relationships from those free videos.
Yeah.
So those created revenue in the future. A lot of word of mouth. I haven't done one cold call in my life.
Yeah. Ian really doesn't have to.
Yeah.
The reason you don't really show up on social media, I'm just making an assumption,
Yeah.
like you don't have to.
No.
And that's really
and a lot of
cool.
that has to do with, you too. Like you and I have such a good relationship that we built, but like also I am your most expensive retainer, but there is a reason for that because she gets the content she needs and we have just really good understanding of like what you need done and what needs to be shot. But going back, those 100 free videos at the time seemed so like expensive with my like burning my own time because for me time is money, but man, just looking at it now, like the growth that it came from just word of mouth. I mean, I still talk to Josh from Austin Fitness Community.
Yeah.
He's sent me work. I've done a Bose commercial for Troy. He was in that Austin Fitness Community.
Yep.
I mean, I just can't go on. I can go on and on about making connections and relationships over money.
Do you think, and I'm really curious because we've seen this plenty of times where like I've been blessed to have Ian for this long, so I haven't had to work with any other creators that are in his industry. But what do you think is the downfall of the people that are trying to break into the industry that you have already been very successful in?
I think one, people set way too high of expectations. They're like, I can do all this when they can't. I think people overprice themselves sometimes. I mean, I've taken, like just from us, you and I starting, I've taken a couple L's on, the money because I would rather have a relationship with you than like overcharge you.
And I'm over here like, just tell me the number.
I know. But I think a lot of people, they think that their worth is sometimes more important than it is, especially just breaking into the industry. Like, what's your portfolio look like? What's your rap sheet look like? What's the experience? Why are you charging me this when you have no experience?
It's very true.
And yeah, I mean, just that. I think a lot of people fail in that because they're overpricing or they think their content's worth more than they are because they're not really sitting back in it.
Yeah.
I know guys that I started with that are still making the same content they were making 4 years ago. So
They're not evolving.
And just like anything else, you need to put time and research and practice, and you have to mess up and you have to fail. Like Ian shows us videos of like when he first started. And obviously when I looked at them, because I'm not Ian, I'm like, they're great. What do you mean? But the amount of like time and effort he puts into really making his craft like unbelievable, so that when people work with him, it's not only the quality, it's that he shows up and he's professional. He comes with ideas. He's pre-planned. And I think that's where the brains get a little mixed because it's just like, I'm a creative, like figure it out.
Yeah. I mean, you hit it on the note. For me, it's always been relationships. So showing up on time. I mean, I'm always early
He's
to everything.
always like 15 to
You guys are
30
perfect
minutes
for each
early.
other.
And I'm like, guys, Ian's already there. We need to hurry.
Yeah, I'm always early. I set realistic deadlines. So I'm not going to shoot this and go, you'll get it tomorrow, because that's how you burn bridges. That's what a lot of people do. They're like, oh, I'll do this.
Yes.
And
I've definitely done that.
You hear that a lot.
You got to set realistic expectations, realistic deadlines. You have to build your relationships. You have to price accordingly to your experience and your time. Wow. And sometimes you have to sit back in your own shit and realize you suck, because I still think I suck. And if I think I suck, and I've been doing this for 6 years, understand you need to humble yourself.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, with the way TikTok is, it's like, oh, I can make content. It's like, no, you can't. You shoot on autofocus everything. Like, stop pretending you're somebody.
Ian and I have definitely talked some shit about certain, like, not even creators that we know, but like those people that are like, watch me go into this Baskin Robbins and shoot a commercial. And it's like, that wasn't a commercial.
And I wouldn't say it's so much shit talking. I would say it's just, everyone thinks they're now a cinematographer or a videographer or a photographer. It's like, you shoot everything on your phone or an autofocus. And not saying that phones can't create amazing content, because they can if you have the right knowledge. But that doesn't, because you shoot everything on autofocus and you've had a couple clients, it doesn't make you a cinematographer or a photographer. Like, everything that you say that you pan whip or you shot, like, doesn't mean it's cinematic. Like, not everything is cinematic. Yeah. I hate that word now. Everyone thinks it's cinematic because it was shot well. Like,
there's even a cinematic mode on phone.
Have you seen a film that's cinematic? They had to use lighting. They had to use, like, it's crazy to me.
Like, I feel like I think we're both, but me more deserving of being critical because I'm newer to this field. We're
I just deserve to be critical of myself.
Just more than Ian. Like, I don't think Ian should be as hard as he is on himself. I also understand it. But like, I think I'm so hypercritical of my work. But I think I'd rather be that way than be cocky, or 100%. Then think I deserve like all the clients out there. Like, I still price myself, according to you, too low, and it's because like I am in that stage where I'm like, well, I just want to build my portfolio.
And there's nothing wrong with that, but I also understand that, like, you've done this now 2 years. You've worked with Julia. You've worked with some high-end people. So pricing them $100 is way under budget, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because now you have that portfolio. Now you have that rap sheet. Now you have that experience, and your work is good. So why charge somebody $100 for your time? That's not even gas money.
Or editing time.
Yeah. Like, to me, I start now how far I've come, I start dictating how much it's going to cost of my time.
Yeah.
So like, if this is going to, if I'm charging somebody $100, but it's going to take me 3 hours, is it worth it? No, I don't want to even get out of bed for $100 now. And I feel extremely grateful and blessed to say, like, sometimes I don't even get out of bed for $1,000. You know, it's like,
it's incredible to see that transition from like, yay, $20 an hour in Michigan. Free. And now you're like, nah. And that's really cool that you can get to the point where you can say yes and you can say no. And then I think that kind of goes back with what the tip you were saying was, don't take for granted like the quality that doing free things can end up leading you to, because now you're in a space where you can decide where I want to take this. Maybe I can say yes, maybe I can say no. I mean, like today on Messenger, I said no to like an opportunity of.
I'm sure you do that a lot with sponsors now, right?
Yeah, to like, because I can now, but I said yes to everything
of course.
When I first started, and then this is where it got me, so that I say yes a lot so that you can say no later. I don't
Exactly. And I've talked to people that I've shot and they're like, why am I not getting any sponsors or brand deals? I'm like, well, are you spending your own money and getting in their stuff and promoting it? Well, no, they should pay me. That's when I'm talking about, like, you should humble your ass, right? Like, why should they pay you? You're a nobody.
Say that again for the people in the back.
I have 100,000 followers. Okay, well, do you make $1 for each follower? No? So you had to make 6 figures this year? Okay, humble your ass. Like, what makes you so relevant and so important out of the billion people that we have that are on social media for that brand? If you're not even willing to put your own money and time into their brand, why would they do it for you?
If you're not willing to sit back and value their brand and support their brand, why would they value and support you?
Exactly.
Makes no sense. That works in
it's a simple energy exchange.
It makes no sense to me.
But I think that's kind of where this generation is going. And look, I'm definitely a part of it. I get, what am I? Am I a millennial still?
No, we're Gen Z.
Yeah. You're Gen Z.
I am?
I think I'm a millennial, correct?
He's a millennial.
Yeah,
so
I think the cut is around 30 right now.
Oh, okay. So. Okay, I'm Gen Z. But what are the new ones called? Are they also Gen Z?
I don't know.
I don't know. I think they might still be Gen Z, but that's some of the downfall that I think of the Gen Zers is that we're very entitled.
Yeah.
And we can't just drop our ego for a second to.
Yeah, I think, And then I also think with Gen Z, I mean, I do appreciate that entitlement somewhat, because I come from an era where it's just like work hard for nothing.
Yeah.
Constantly work hard until you die and then it's it, right? But I also love the fact that I'm in like both, generations. Like I get to experience, like I know what it means to work hard for something, but I also know that I'm entitled for shit too.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
As you should.
He's in the sweet spot.
I guess both of you could answer this, because like I'm new in the fitness, well, like new in like the grand scheme of things. I'm new to the fitness space, and I'm also new to the creator space. Was it hard for either of you to start demanding more or start asking for more?
100%. I mean, I still sometimes don't turn down work because I just love it. But I think if you're to a point where you're making money and you can say no, you should start saying no to low-hanging fruit, because if you keep saying yes to low-hanging fruit, you'll only acquire low-hanging fruit. The universe will give you what you say yes to. Mm-hmm. So if you keep saying yes to $100, all you're gonna get is $100. Mm-hmm. If you start turning down $100, like I'm gonna be 500, I'm gonna be 1,000. Oddly enough, if you say no enough, someone's gonna come in and go, I'll give you $1,000 for that, and you go, oh shit, I can make $1,000. And now because you made that $1,000, you're like, I'm charging everyone $1,000.
Exactly.
Right?
There's been times where like I have done that, but Zach has had to help me do that, where I wasn't charging enough for my one-on-one coaching, and he was like, no, he's like, now you need to charge $3,000 for 3 months of one-on-one. And I was like, how am I going to do that? Like, oh my God. And he was like, look at all the time and effort you spend on, researching and learning and educating yourself, and how long, like, he's like, you're a fucking pro. And I was like,
I mean, we had to force you to get on YouTube.
It's true. And then the one time I sent the email, I was like, it's going to be $3,000. Someone said yes. And then that's my new, okay, like I am worth this.
So now that's your new low. That's like, I'm not getting out of bed for less than 3.
Yeah.
Because I've worked for the last 5 years to be able to say, I'm not getting out of bed for 3 without 3.
I kind of took the same approach with my in-home training business. Is like I started small and I slowly went higher and higher. And then I think I like saw or listened to it, like a quote somewhere where it was like, if you create something for a market, the market's going to create itself. Yeah. So like if you have certain prices, that market's going to find you. Yeah.
And I think a lot of creatives, including yourself, you're doing it for $100, but then that influencer that's taking your content, let's say you give them 30 photos for $100 and they post every day for 30 days. Imagine if they have a following, like the income they're bringing in, the margins they created from you and your time is so crazy. But like when someone comes to me and they look at my portfolio and the people I work with and they're like, can you do a wedding for $300? I'm like, where on my Instagram does it say I'm worth $300?
Yeah.
Like would you walk into Gucci and be like, yeah, can I get this jacket for $50? No, bro. Like Gucci made a name for themselves.
What a good analogy.
Yeah.
Ian is the Gucci of the videographers.
Right. It's like a brand coming to you and going, will you post my stuff for $100 and you got 700,000 followers on TikTok? Like where on my TikTok does it say I'll do that for you? Yeah. It doesn't. So, I mean, saying no when you're able to say no, like make sure that you're making income to say no. Sometimes you just have to say yes to everything because you're not making money, but saying no will help you price higher and get you farther.
Can you think back to a time where your gut told you to say no to a project, and even though it was a little bit of money and maybe you needed the money, and you were like, okay, I made the decision to say no, and did something pop up after that was there for you? Like the universe worked for you?
100%. I mean, God, I'm not going to say any names, but I was on a retainer, and I think it was a $3,000 retainer, and I was driving quite far. I mean, it was like an hour and 10 minutes one way to take photos 3 times a week. And it was a decent retainer for me at the time. I mean, I would just quit my job 6 months in, and I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And I was so bummed that they just like ghosted me. And you probably know who I'm talking about now. Like they left me. I'm like, damn, what am I going to do? And then like Zach popped up and he's like, well, I can give you that $3,000. And that was instant. And then another time actually just happened. I don't think anything popped up yet, but like I know what's coming. So people are going to be like, what did you do? Like I turned down an 6-figure job with 5% equity to run an agency, to like help run an agency this year.
But
to put more time into Julia.
I didn't know you were going to say that.
Well, remember I told you even last year, I was like, man, I feel like I'm just not putting enough time in you. I feel like bad because I was like constantly busy, and you would stop asking me to do shit because I was so busy, and that I didn't like that exchange, and it felt weird for me. So, but I didn't just leave it just for you. I'm thinking about starting my own creative agency with a couple creatives here in Austin, and we haven't announced that yet. So, You guys aren't going to
Drum
know.
roll.
Yeah. But, and then also I'm going to work on myself and build my brand more, because last year I didn't make any extra income off of, you and G1 because I didn't promote myself. Mm-hmm. So even when I would post my stories saying, I'm taking on clients, I didn't get any hits because I was just never active.
Yeah.
So that just goes to show you that like having a presence and being active on social media really can help too. I mean, a lot of my income to start was off of hashtags on Instagram. Mm-hmm. I don't have a website.
Yeah, that's why Chloe was like, what?
Yeah.
He's a ghosty. She goes, he didn't even have a website.
I feel like you need to pour like more time into yourself as a creator, or like
you burn out so fast.
Yeah, like if you have like 2 people and you only work with those 2 people for years, like if you were to lose one, that's like losing literally 50% of your income.
Yeah, I mean, and another reason why I turned it down too is because they wanted me to work 40 hours a week. Like I left that life.
Yeah, I quit.
I work more than 40 hours a week for myself, for Julia, and for other people, but I'm not going into an office. Yeah, I'm not going into an office pouring my soul into someone else's agency for 5%. I mean, that sounds crazy for 6 figures, but I'm not doing that. I'm worth more than that.
Not as high of a deal, but I got an offer similar where I was going to be like kind of the full media for this company that was moving to Austin. And same thing, they wanted me in office at least 35 hours a week. And I was like, I just can't. Like I have so many other things I want to and can do with that time. Yeah. I'm not going to sit in an office.
Yeah.
I became an entrepreneur so that I can make my own decisions. And this doesn't seem like it.
Yeah. It's hard to say no to things like that because like it is enticing and it is like the safe route, but sometimes the safe route isn't the best route.
100%. That's great. And last year, I mean, I look at the glass sometimes half full. I mean, sometimes I kind of kick my ass for it, but I did get to create some really cool shit last year on someone else's dime. And I really did get to build my portfolio meet new people. So although I didn't put anything back into myself, and I burned out a lot and I was tired often and I traveled way too much.
He got sick like a million times.
Yeah. And I don't eat when I'm that busy, which is a problem. But
you got to work on that.
I know.
Bulking season.
Yep. But yeah, so I mean, glass half full. Got to do some cool stuff, and now this year I'm going to focus on you and myself and whatever else comes along. We're going to create some cool shit.
Big plans. We got big plans, guys, for content going forward. And
I've also been thinking, like, besides just like putting more time into YouTube, like shooting you more often, I've been thinking that I won't say the name because it doesn't exist, I don't think, but creating a documentary of like prep.
Yeah.
So like a real.
We have to do that.
Like Generation Iron style?
Yeah.
Yeah, like at least an hour long, and like what we can really
like
do.
Like a recap of the whole prep season in like an hour video.
And we'll have all that footage too, and probably extra since we have to cut it down.
I feel like you wouldn't even have to film anything extra for it. Maybe like an extra interview or two.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, guys.
That'd be sick.
Big things coming. That's going to be so fucking cool. But what sucks is like we're going to have to do the whole prep in order to get this stuff for that. And I'm going to have to wait, and I hate waiting.
Just make one on last year's prep.
Same.
We kind of did, but it was like a short one.
True.
We always do a little recap. But to kind of like wrap up everything, what is next for you? You kind of touched on it a little bit, but like where do you want to go with this since you've reached a level of success and now it's time to build off of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I don't think that far ahead a lot of the times. I kind of just like to sit in where I'm at. And I think that's undervalued sometimes. But I think for the future, obviously, being more present on YouTube, like where we can build your YouTube to 1 million followers would be super nice. Even like showing my face more on your YouTube, like Nabil does with Christian Guzman, like really, really creating that cool dynamic and creating really cool stuff. But outside of the YouTube thing, I want to build my own TikTok and like my own brand up. And
dude, even if you just showed how you edited, like I would watch it 100 times trying to figure it out.
Truthfully, I've been kicking my ass because I've been saying I'd be on YouTube since 2015. I'm still not on YouTube. So I need,
I made a pact with Savannah that we were going to start this year. So you're on that pact now. The 3 of us are going to start this year.
I don't know what I'm going to create because everyone's kind of creating the same shit now.
Yeah, but you're you.
Yeah, but what makes me different from every other creative that's teaching? Like that's where I got to figure out like why would someone tune in to watch me teach them?
Well, because you're kind of like more realistic with how people can grow their brand.
Like brutally honest.
Yeah,
you're not like the flashy, like in your face type of
and I think
creator.
that's it's a really good quality is that he's just blunt. And that's why you guys are listening to this and you're probably like, damn, I had no idea his personality was like this. Ian's very just, this is how it is.
Yep.
And if you don't like it, this is fine.
Yeah. And I think even creating more BTS outside of like you and I shooting a YouTube. Like I should bring more people into me filming
Me.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Film me filming.
and we can even use that. Like I can even post that on my YouTube, like what a day in the life with Juliarene and myself looks like. Like,
Exactly.
you know what I mean? Or a lot of people even wanted to know what G1 looked like wanted to see my year at G1, but I didn't document any of it really. So sometimes I kick my ass. I think the biggest thing I can say to someone who's starting is start documenting everything, because I regret not doing that for the last 6 years.
And I think that that's one thing a lot of creators in your industry do is they're so focused on documenting other people that they don't document themselves. It's kind of like you're already editing so many other people's videos and you're like, do I want to do this? I
do that
know.
all the time. I was like, I'll do 2 reels. Nah, it never happened.
Yeah, he's like, nah, I'm tired. I already just finished someone else's video.
100%.
I feel like it's the same thing in the fitness industry where I constantly regret not filming or taking more pictures in my beginning stages.
Well, the biggest thing for me is when I post that recap video of this year, I was like, damn, I should have filmed more, because it was really cool to like look back. And I wish I would have recorded the whole process of me getting my first 6 figures and then like building my company, because I think that could have been even a docu-series or documentary like segment.
It's so true. Like just putting on the camera whenever like you reach this amount of money, or putting on the camera when you quit a job, like just documenting what you're going through. Cause we all remember that these things happened, but like how you felt,
in the moment,
what it looked like. Like I wish that I can go back to like filming what my crappy apartment looks like, and then just like the build up and things. Fuck.
It's crazy. A lot of people, I lived in a camper for 2 years editing on this like crappy ass desk on a broken ass laptop with a standard A6000 camera for my first 2-3 years of what I did.
Now he's got a gangsta setup.
And I was driving a Chevy Malibu with no AC in Texas for 2 years.
Yeah, I knew him when he was when that, and I was like,
the struggle was real.
Yeah, and I was actually, it's crazy when he finally got his new car with AC. I was there.
You had to drop something off, right?
I dropped to my SD card, and I was there. It's funny.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm buying a Jeep.
Yeah, and then I got a Jeep later too. I was like, proud of Dickler.
Are we waiting on Kendall to get a Jeep yet, or what?
Never. I'm good.
Well, the last question that we always ask all of our guests that come on the podcast, and you probably already know because you edit the podcast.
Yeah.
When was the moment that you knew how powerful you really were?
Dude, and every time I listen to you guys talk about this, and you're like, I'll just give you a moment. I'm like, oh, I would know the answer immediately. And I'm like, shit, what's the answer?
And then you're on it, and you're like, fuck.
I think, honestly, it's really hard to say, like a pinpoint a moment, because I've had a lot of really cool moments where I'm like, wow. But I think at the end of the year, so there's this kid named David. I took him under my wing for G1. He was just learning how to shoot. I mean, there's a couple guys in G1 that I like helped mentor all year, and I didn't realize I was really doing that. I'm just like really nice, I guess. I was just constantly giving information and like helping him succeed. And he was able to leave his corporate 6-figure job after 4 months of like spending time with me and making over 6 figures by himself. And at the end of the year, he messaged me. He goes, man, I really want to let you know, like, I'm extremely grateful for you. And you really like changed my entire life. And to me, I was like, it kind of almost makes me emotional. I'm like, fuck, how did I do that? Like, what did I do? And he's like, you just showed me the way. And I was like, damn, I didn't even know I was doing that. I just did.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Because
what
you're
a badass answer.
Yeah.
He's super giving with his information, and that's it could be something that's negative because a lot of people have used him for that, but then you literally paid for somebody's life.
Yeah. Yeah. Now he's making a killing. It's crazy because, I mean, like you said, I've been burned a few times trying to mentor somebody, and then they just like stole my client, or they ghosted me, or just some kind of weird stuff that like we won't talk about. But it was just, that's when I was like, wow, like just my existence sometimes I don't realize is enough. Yeah. Crazy.
My existence is enough. That's going to be the title of the podcast. That's so good. Well, thank you so much, Ian, for coming on. We appreciate you, everything that you do for everybody and everyone listening, everything that you do for them. And as always, guys, we love you all so much, and you are more powerful than you think. Bye. There you go. He's got it.